We're back on Steele and Vance and Linda. Last week we were talking about fad diets and intermittent fasting, and we got a lot of mail about some things working for some people, not working for others, and it started to go down this rabbit hole of information, disinformation, what diets work, what don't. We thought we should probably talk it through one more time.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And first and foremost, we want to make sure that we're not talking about the disinformation and misinformation that is flying around online and growing by the day. Things like, did you know that when Alex Jones puts something on his podcast, like floats something insane, he will then sell way more supplements? And that's his moneymaker, right?
It's everybody's grifting, and they are doing it because everybody's looking for some magical cure. You know, oh, I just have to take this one little gummy and suddenly I'll be 10 pounds lighter, or my vision will be restored, or whatever. I don't know if we're gullible, lazy, want to quick fix everything.
Yeah, snake oil has been a thing since the beginning of time. And now with the introduction of artificial intelligence, the grifts can be even greater because it can pull you in. So the public's confidence in its ability to evaluate is a cause for concern around health. And you can see the man at the top of that tweet is Professor Timothy Caulfield, and he is joining us once again on the program. A touchstone for us you are, Professor Timothy Caulfield. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Specific to today, as Linda was referencing, is there one magic pill, one magic gummy? If we maybe go to Goop and buy this incredible powder to put in my coffee in the morning, it's going to change everything forever?
No.
Bummer.
Are we done? Are we done?
Thanks, Tim. That was great.
You know, I've been studying this for decades, and it's incredible to me how the myths they're just maintained. They just won't go away. You know, the fad diets, the crazy supplements, these kinds of products, and the evidence tells us again and again and again they don't work. And by the way, you know, just for fun and for research purposes, I've tried a lot of this stuff. And you do sometimes get this short-term benefit, right? You lose a little bit of weight, and then you attribute that to the magical diet, but invariably it comes back on, and hey, that's your fault. So what a great marketing scheme, right? When it works, it's it's Gwyneth and Goops gets they get the credit, and when the weight comes back on, it's your fault. So yeah, these products have been around forever. And for me, the message is always the same. Stick with the basics.
Okay, fair enough. But I mean, these days, do you think that, first of all, most of these ads and grifts and fake snake oil products are geared toward women, or are men also getting sucked in?
Good question.
Yeah, so this is a great question. And I think historically, they were focused more on women. And the other interesting thing here, guys, is what you're often seeing is they're exploiting the reality, the fact, the evidence-based fact that often the healthcare system has treated women, unfairly. They haven't done the appropriate research for that community, and that's also true for people of color. And so they're exploiting that systemic issue to sell products. And so historically, I think it is true. It's been focused largely on, but that's shifting. That's shifting. We're definitely seeing a move towards influencers focusing on men. There's this whole masculinity movement right now, this manly man movement. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called the manosphere. So you're definitely starting to see that shift. And unfortunately, it's working. That market's growing.
Welcome to the party.
Right.
Yeah.
Good one. And okay, let's
the
talk
insecurity party.
That's it. Talk about some of the grifts now, your top 10 or 5. We've got a list here of some of the health grifts. Speak to these for us and tell us why we should not be buying into them.
Yeah, so look, it sounds like the first one you guys have already touched on, right? Extreme diets. You know what the best diet is? The best diet, it's healthy, it's sustainable, and it works for you. That's the best diet. We all have different paths towards a healthy lifestyle. Ignore the gimmicks. The second one, the detox one. Oh, if I could pick one, you guys, if you see a practitioner saying that they have a detox or a cleanse for you, that is a major red flag that it's bunk. You don't need these products. You know, your body, you got your kidneys, you got your liver, you know, your body knows how to detox. Do not believe that. And the homeopathy, that is right up there too. Look, homeopathy does not mean herbal medicine. It does not mean ancient medicine. Homeopathy is a total pseudoscience. So if you see any practitioner or any influencer pushing homeopathy, again, you know it's bunk. And next up on our list, we have the supplement industry, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Look, if you have gone to a healthcare practitioner and they say you have a clinically identified deficiency, obviously, right? Obviously, you want to take a clinical grade supplement. If you're a pregnant woman, you need to take supplements. And there are definitely clinical reasons for it. But that's not the massive supplement industry, right? Most of it has no evidence to back it up. It's a lightly regulated industry. And by the way, you guys, research shows again and again, the products are often contaminated. Our study just came out for memory supplements. 30% of the products had bacteria in it and often mislabeled. That same study found that the huge variance, I think it was 9 out of 10 products didn't have what the label said they had. So, so supplements, another big red flag. And what was the last one? Oh, IV vitamin therapy. Yeah, so it kind of builds on what I just said. You see this everywhere. A lot of alternative practitioners are pushing this. No evidence to support it, and potential for real harm, even from the infections. Again, this is something I've tried for my own research purposes, and all it is, expensive pee.
Expensive pee. Well, okay, so, I would like to think that we're not dumb people. Even as a society.
Correct.
So what is it then? Is it a lack of critical thinking? Is it a flashy ad campaign? Is it the influencer thing? I mean, what is it? Or are we just gullible?
I think it's a little bit of all the above, right? And I also think, going back to that first point I made, I do think people are frustrated with the healthcare system, and that frustration is getting worse. And they're looking for comfort, they're looking for compassion, they're looking for some problem. They perhaps have a chronic disease and are looking for some answer to that problem. So right. I get it, right? They're searching for an answer, and these marketeers, these grifters are exploiting that need. The other thing is, I think, really important, and you touched on this at the beginning in the intro, our information environment has gotten so chaotic. It's gotten so chaotic. So I think it's becoming more difficult to tease the real science from the fake science. And so I think that's another problem.
So when we're looking out for that, a population of people, as you said, looking for ways to improve their lifestyle and doing their own research perhaps, buzzwords, catchphrases, things to be on the lookout, more flags. I want to put up this other board here and just real quick, like cold plunging is so popular. Hydration hype. You got to drink coconut water. It's non-GMO. It's going to be way healthier. Give us some tips on what to not be fooled by.
Yeah, I think always watch, be leery if it's a trend, it's a fad. And I think the cold plunging goes on in that category. Hydration hype that, somehow, you're supposed to do all these special things with water and drink. You drink when you're thirsty. Thanks, evolution. That works, right? And then there's also this fear mongering out there. Yes, we want to make sure our food is safe and there aren't inappropriate toxins in there. But the body of evidence tells us, you just aim for, healthy, fresh, real food, and that's what you want to focus on. And the other thing I think, and we've done a lot of research on this, our team, this phenomenon of science exploitation, right? So that's using sciencey words like stem cells, microbiome, genomics. You use the language of real science to sell bunk products. So, watch for that. Too, if the sciencey words are not used in a credible manner, that's a real big red flag too.
It's weird though. You would think that in a critical mass, if somebody was pitching some bogus product and we're all rushing to buy it and it was crap, that word would get out. But no, they just pivot to some new bit of crap in a fancier box?
They do, and that's one of the things I find so frustrating, right? And Alex Jones is a good example of this, right? I also think people live we all are too. I'm not pointing fingers here. We tend to live in echo chambers increasingly, and so you get confirmation bias comes to play here too. And anecdotes and testimonials can make the product seem believable, and also using the product can become a flag of your membership to that community, right? And we've seen that play out in the past also. And unfortunately, you guys, that's really pernicious, because once it becomes about community, about ideology, about in-group signaling, it can be really difficult to change a person's mind. And by the way, I'm not pointing fingers. This is something that we all have to watch out for.
And you've got the need versus noise here that I think is really important as we punctuate this. You sent me this. I love it.
Yeah, I use this, or a version of this slide all of the time. We really want to focus on the evidence-based, facts, right? The basic stuff we need to do. You don't smoke, you exercise, you eat real food, you try to maintain a healthy weight. And by the way, we can all be healthy in different shapes and sizes, right? That's important to recognize. Basic prevention. Surround yourself with people you love. Get a good night's sleep. That's really what matters. Socioeconomics and picking your parents, by the way, that can also make a big difference. But ignore the noise. And that's one of the reasons that what we're talking about today is so important, right? Because all of these things can create a really noisy environment that causes us not to focus on those basics. And there's research to back this up, by the way. It distracts us from the things that we really can do as individuals and as a community to make a real difference.
Well, thank you for this, because I am busy now canceling a bunch of products that I've purchased on Instagram, right?
Which we do late at night, it seems. Oh my goodness, yeah.
Loved this conversation. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. All the best.
You're the best. Too. Professor Timothy Caulfield, Health Law at the University of Alberta. Hey, later on the show, our friend Gord Birdie is back to talk macular degeneration. Do you know what to look out for? And axe the tax. Canadians are feeling the squeeze, and a growing number, they want that carbon tax abolished. Pollster Shachi Curl is in studio next. But first, our viewing party brought to you by the BC Restaurant and Food Services Association. Carol in Vancouver, hello. We have Claire in Courtney. Hi, Claire. And Isabella also snapped a photo of her watching us, and there it is. Side-eye. And Judy and Quinnell, thanks for watching. If you want to get in on the fun, take a picture of you watching us and send us your photos. Viewing party at chekmedia.ca. A $100 gift card at Romer's Steamship is up for grabs.